Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CLSR. And I'm your host, the counselor. And today we're going to talk about the dating game and how coronavirus may be better for our relationships. This time, it could be different. I mean, many of you have had those dating issues where you're online doing the excessive back and forth, talking, the pickup lines, the forced feelings. Everything seemed to be rushed. However, we might have to slow that down, and that's one of the benefits of having this coronavirus challenge that we have right now. The dating game, especially if you're single now, you're gonna have some challenges for sure because of the pandemic. But think about what it's forcing us to do. There are ways that you can look at this dating situation in a different light. Like, think about it. For the last 20 years, many of you had the privileges of accessing these websites, matching people up, only to hear a lot of complaints. There's some good things, but there are some negative things going on in relation to that online dating. I mean, there's been complaints about all the men want to do is hook up, right? Get together. And it just seems like it's a hit it and quit it situation. However, now men are going to have to work in a different capacity, right? Because this COVID has slowed things down, it forces singles to return to a more traditional wooing, which means basically getting to know someone before you start to do all the lovey-dovey and kissing, right? You get to rediscover each other, right? Give dating another try. You get some additional time to select someone that may be really for you, right? Someone who is truly appropriate, a real mate. Not a stalemate, but a real mate. There could be actual some time where you take out to develop some real romance, right? And you can do that when you develop slowly. And a relationship could flourish just out of this pandemic, due in part to these restrictions, right? Think about it. Video chats. That's something so common now. It's just like breathing. Everybody's doing it, right? There are people who are making sure that they're getting online now and spending some time to get to know people, right? Before this COVID-19, only 6% of the singles were using video chat. Now everyone's starting to use it and use it appropriately. It went from 6% to almost 70% of people who are now open to this video chat. Now you get to see who you're dealing with, and you get to spend some time communicating with them, especially these ones who could be considered potential partners, right? Someone who you'd really like to talk to. You get to know someone. That's a little different, right? There are some real advantages to seeing your partner on Facetime or Zoom. These internet platforms are allowing us to know a little bit more about each other. The way we take care of ourselves, our hair, or lack of, tattoos, the way we dress, revealing blouses, all these are visible traits. They signal your background, right? And your education, your interests. I find it funny that when I see people on the Zoom meeting, I can see the background, what they have. You can learn a lot about people when you look behind them and where they're hosting the conversation from, right? You could really tell a lot about people. You'd be surprised what's in their background. I mean, I've seen some things I've had to laugh at. It's like, do they really know that these pictures are kind of weird or offensive, or they just give their personalities away, right? It's just weird. But anyways, it is something that is here and here to stay. Well, let's think about the sex and money. These are off the table right now because realistically, these are two of the most challenging aspects of these dating relationships: sex and money. When singles meet in person, they're obligated to navigate this world. Should they kiss or not? What if they invite me back to their place? What am I going to do? See, before the virus, about 30% of Americans engaged in sex before an official date. And right now, that's over. At least for now, it's over. You might have some sexy banter during a video chat, but real sex is off the table. Money's off the table as well. Right? Think about it. On an in-person date, people must negotiate who's going to pay for what. And if you were to meet in a cheap place like a cafe or a restaurant or an inexpensive bar, who's going to offer to split the bill? However, during this corona pandemic, money negotiations, that's part of the past. You don't have to worry about those things, right? You are actually engaging in a relationship. You are going to the basics. You are making time to talk. See, with the coronavirus lockdowns, so many of you now have more time. You aren't dressing in the morning, commuting to work, or meeting pals, or you don't have to worry about the office. Many of you have more time to learn about each other, share more, engage in meaningful conversation, learn vital things about your partner. You see, self-disclosure is important, which is basically the process of revealing one's innermost feelings, their attitudes and experiences. This allows for intimacy, love, and commitment, which are the foundations of a strong relationship or partnership. Think about it. See, prior to coronavirus, abusing the privilege of this new technology of online dating, right? On and on, dizzily tapping, swiping, clicking, binging, just looking for that special someone. However, the human brain, we're not built to handle all these choices. Seriously. After about 6 or 7 options, we have a tendency to burn out. And this is a condition known as cognitive overload, which is a paradox of choice. You're just looking for that someone, you're just constantly on there, and it becomes monotonous, and actually you're not really stimulated anymore. If anything, you become more bottled and agitated. See, too many alternatives starts to wear on our mind. However, we do select one. And once you converse with someone who you think may be the candidate, someone who you might be inclined to like, right? Then you have to think of the reasons why you're going to say yes to them. You see, you've gone through all these alternatives and now you finally selected one. So now that you have one, you stopped your search because you feel, I'm going to choose one, get it over with. And then you have to think of the reasons why you're saying yes. However, there's a trick involved here. See, the brain of yours have this thing called negativity bias, where we start to remember the negative, right? We overlook what otherwise, because we've gone through so much selection, we've overlooked things that we might really not like about the person, and so we settle on something, right? So we focus on what we do like about the person. See, that person might like dogs and you might like cats, but because you've been through so many exercises, you get this negativity, right? And you resist it. And then you resist this negativity bias and concentrate on the positive. So all the things that you normally wouldn't like, Because you've gone through so many selections, you've settled. So you actually pick one, right? Maybe one you normally wouldn't pick. However, the one thing we do have to say is that this pandemic could be good for love because you actually can take your time. You can actually engage in slow love, right? And there's a long term payoff to this lockdown, right? Getting to know someone is a process. Think about the past. Marriage was the beginning of a relationship. Today, it tends to be the final, the finale. No longer do most of us marry very young. And in this quarantine, especially this worldwide pandemic that we have, we're going to have to call this slow love, where we take care of ourselves and actually engage in getting to know each other. That could be a very good thing because it forces us to look at who we're dealing with without the money and the sex as part of the influencers or the issues that could evolve. And the speed dating, that's all out the window. So now we're being more genuine, more cautious, and careful. And maybe that's good for the relationship. A romantic love can be triggered rapidly, whereas feelings of deep attachment take some time to develop. Right? We were built for this slow love. We really were. But we've been living in a society where everything's go, 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 go. Gotta have somebody. Gotta get this need met. This pandemic is changing the face of dating. It really is. And actually, it's becoming more enduring towards marriage, right? It's it's putting a delay in the matrimony process. Think about that. Compared with those who dated less than a year ago, couples who dated for 1 to 2 years before wedding were 20% less likely to divorce. And couples who date for 3 or more years before marrying were 40% less likely, to break up. We can remain in love for long term. See, this is something that's been debated for years. Can people commit for long periods of time? And I believe that if we get to know each other, at least for the time being, we can really secure some long lasting relationships. I mean, we got to take for granted that we are human beings and we're mammals and we are built to court face to face. But more singles today are talking via video, chatting before they meet in person. It's just like a new process, a new stage in the courtship. And it's flourishing, saving singles time and money as well, enabling many to kiss fewer frogs, right? It sounds bizarre, it really does. And I just really believe that the pandemic, despite the tragedy on the opposite end of the spectrum, there can be some happiness and some enduring relationships or partnerships in this post-corona age. I think there's some good things that can come out of it for sure if we allow it, if we open our minds to it. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about the stress, how bad the relationships are, and how it could lead to divorce. Actually, now that some research has been done, and we've been in it at least 6 months, there are some researchers that say, you know what, we're faring pretty well when it comes to relationships. We're not doing bad as we thought we were. When we think about it, like, we know relationships aren't perfect, and there's always going to be some issues. However, 3/4 of Americans with a romantic partner say the relationship has not fundamentally changed since this pandemic, since the outbreak. You know, the relationships have gotten better. 74% said it was about the same. Despite this pandemic, it hasn't really gotten worse or any better. It's been the same. And 10% say it's been a lot better. 7% say it's a little better. And only 4% say it's worse. So weathering this pandemic could add some stress for sure. However, we need to understand that when we go through stress, we turn to who? We turn to our partners, which could be a good thing. And they're generally ready. willing and able to support us during these difficult times. A lot of people want more closeness in their relationships, right? These people are getting what they wish for. And it's not a bad thing at all. It's a good thing. Think about the frequency of arguments and sexual interactions. This is something in question. Well, the truth is, less than 2 in 10 of those relationships say they get into fewer arguments with their partner, while 1 in 10 say they get into more arguments. And 7 in 10 say there has been no real difference despite what you heard, despite the isolation, which we would have to say has led to more intimacy in many cases rather than the reverse or the opposite. Only 9% say their sex life has improved, and even fewer, 5%, said it's gotten worse, with 77% saying it's about the same. See, about half expect the relationship will emerge stronger from this pandemic, and many think it'll hardly get any worse. These are some trying times, and I think initially when we went through it, it's a challenge. I mean, we could write this off as, hey, man, it's a pandemic. We're arguing, carrying on, saying things that we didn't mean. But we do have to look at it and say we have a tendency to adjust as humans, right? Once we get into it, yes, it's problematic. It's stress. We start to go through these changes. It impacts our relationships. However, many of us learn to adjust, right? So this is something that we become resilient at, believe it or not. Sticking together, supporting each other. For the most part, it's really working. And we do have to keep in mind that the married partners are more likely than the unmarried ones to say the relationship has not changed. I think there's a number of reasons for this. I think if you're married, you might have reasons why you're sticking together and you've committed and you've got your mind made up that you're not going to give up so easily. So you kind of obligated. But you also are in love and you're working it out and you realize that things are not easy. They can be challenging. However, together you've decided to weather the storm. I think it could be somewhat different if you're not married. Then you might have reasons not to commit as much. You might feel that, you know what, I didn't really like this. This isn't working for me. And so you have a way out, right? Either way, you have a way out, but you're more likely to take that way out compared to someone who may be married. And you also have to think of the circumstances, right? People who are married, they've had to deal with trying times prior to this pandemic, such as job loss or severe illness or death of a loved ones. Before this even happened, they were dealing with this. They've traveled a lot before. They've gone down different paths, which is going to be different from someone who's not in a committed relationship to the point where they're married. They might not have gone through these experiences together, so they might not know how to navigate their way through it. So it definitely can be a challenge. And it's different things to different people. So younger people in relationships between the age of like 18 to 34 years old are more likely than older people to say that the pandemic has affected their relationship, because people in that age group are more likely to be unmarried than those who are older. It just makes sense. The truth is, most say their relationships aren't adding to the pandemic stress. However, women are a little bit more affected than men. Approximately 59%, which is the majority in relationships, have had no impact on their daily stress level, but 29% of women, right, said their relationship has added to their daily stress. Well, only 23% of men said the same. And I think the key factor for this, especially during the pandemic, is the strength of the relationship before the pandemic. The couples who are already doing well are doing even better. And for those of you who may not be doing so well, I do have a few suggestions to share with you how to keep your relationship healthy during this coronavirus pandemic. I do recommend that we are acknowledging that, yes, we're going to get some cabin fever, right? We're gonna spending day in, day out together. It can make some people a little bit crazy. Even the most committed couples can start to become lethargic and lose a sense of time, even asking themselves, what day is it? Right? It's just a part of coping. It's like an uncertainty that we're facing, and it can wreak havoc on the relationships. It's important for each of us to take responsibility for our health and well-being. And I think it's also important that we understand that we have to maintain some self-care and establish a routine. Self-care is essential. With everyone's schedule that's changed, it's important to establish and maintain some kind of routine. Sticking to regular sleep hours, waking up on time, making the bed and getting dressed each day, eating nutritious foods, that is going to help the relationship. Make sure you schedule breaks. Could be some activities that you engage in, like yoga, meditation. You just got to break up the day and stay grounded, as grounded as you possibly can. Keep the work day limited. So if you're working at home, it helps to set some boundaries between your work hours and the time you spend with your partner. The anxiety caused by this pandemic may have a tendency to uh, get people to lose themselves in their work, right? Hours could just go by. You're at your desk in your area and you just work, 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 work. However, you don't realize that you have a partner there, so you need to take some time and invest in them, even though they're in the same spot that you are. They might need some attention because everyone needs attention. And how we go about getting that attention could be problematic, especially if we're settling down after working all day and we decide, oh, let's just start drinking, engaging in drinking or substance use and abuse. Increases the stress and can aggravate habits such as smoking, substance use, drinking more alcohol. So you got to keep your eye on the consumption. Too much alcohol can really set the stage for unhealthy interactions, right? You might end up saying things you don't mean to say, but you're saying them anyway, and you feel, hey, it's not my fault. And you use the pandemic as an excuse to, engage in some unhealthy conversation. And if you had some previous difficulties with substance abuse, that won't help either. So if you're going to get together, make sure you're clear minded, open with your communication, and relax, and not referring to some substance to bide your time. It's not good for you at all. And when you can get out there, do that. Small groups, of course, but get a little bit of exercise outdoors. Get together. Walk. Walk the block. This reduces stress and brings some positive interaction, some healthy conversations, right? I mean, think about it. Prior to the pandemic, a lot of couples were spending time in the gym. Don't just cut it off and become inactive. Still try to be as active as you can, right? Work together to keep your kids occupied. Activities, plan things around the home, develop some activities, ensure that you're working together. You want to create a whole nother dimension for the family. It's coping. You are coping people. You have to come up with some coping strategies, right? Think. It can be impossible to do work from home if you don't have structure, right? So if you're attending video meetings and your kids are running around, no, you don't want that. You want to make sure that they're doing work. You got your work, they have theirs. It's all scheduled, and then you have your activity time and your family time. These things still have to be applied in the home. And don't count on amazing sex. Too many of you feel that, hey, you know what? I'm home. I'm going to have all this wonderful sex. Well, yeah, you might be the odd man out doing all that. However, staying at home could be a little bit dangerous, right? Especially when you don't have that romantic vacation that you're used to. So don't have too much expectation when it comes to this thing that you usually get when you go on vacation. It might be dialed down a little bit. The expectations around sexual intimacy can be a little dialed down. Could be good for some of you, but it's not going to be where it was when it comes to going on vacation, right? There's when people are here at the house, they don't want to be overwhelmed and you don't want to put too much pressure on your partner. The stress is very real for both people. You got to deal with your financial concerns, if you have children, possible job loss, illness in the family from a friend. These are concerns which will be part of your everyday existence. So these can interfere with the sexual desire of your partner. So this is just about respect and understanding. And try as much as you can to broaden your support system. You do have a partner, and that's just one person, and they're fantastic. However, you don't always want to lean on them too much to burn them out. A single individual can only handle so much, especially your emotional needs. And especially being under one roof, they're going to need a break too. So it's important for both of you in a relationship to stay connected to family and friends who can be available for you, especially in these times, these very challenging times. Talk with other people on the phone and use technology to keep support in place and network with other individuals. It's going to work. It's going to help you. And plan something fun for the family, yourself. Even if you're partner and you want to do something, plan it. Even if you plan it within the home where you're saying, look, Friday night, Saturday, we're choosing the day because we're going to spend some time together, just you and I. If we're sitting alone, we're going to do something. We're going to have some fun. We even have some romance. But we are going to do something. We're going to plan something fun together. Could be with the family or could just be the partners together doing something. But it is important to plan something fun. You want to see that you have some stress release out there. It's not just sexual stress release. It's fun. The whole balance thing. Think of balance. You want to balance it out as much as you can. It's important to balance things out. You realize that you're not able to go where you normally do, go out for a meal with friends and family. So use this technology. Get the apps up there and running, right? This can help you couples get together virtually with friends and family, right? Planning some dinners, some games, nights at the movies, believe it or not. These are important things to create events. They don't have to be big events. It can be small events. But the whole purpose is that you are doing something fun together. And you are also involving other people. Still trying to maintain some relationships, right? Using your time to make things better. Another area that I think is important is making plans for relationships that are in crisis. See, the relationships that have worsened to the point of abuse or violence, um, that's important that you maintain connections with the family and friends. This is vitally important. Anyone who feels in danger due to a potential domestic violence situation, they should make sure that they have a plan in place to leave or to get somewhere where they're safe. If they have kids as well, they want to be able to get them out of the situation. Someone could be in there creating some serious situation where you don't know what to do next. Well, this is where you plan it. This is where you start to be proactive. See, when couples are under the gun or under the pressure, it's something that is so vitally important that you do have a plan in place for a situation that could get out of control. Also, if you are in a relationship where you might not have that person around, you need to have a plan in place as well so that if they are out there and you're at home, you have somewhere that you could go to get support, right? In case of a serious situation, you might be at home with your family and you might have to deal with a serious occurrence. And we all know that services are slow, especially during this COVID-19. getting access to services has been terrible. So a plan is essential for the families now more than ever. Your attitude and your behavior, they're also going to help the entire situation. Be on your P's and Q's, on your best behavior. It's helpful for you to be realistic about your situation. We're all conscious of this pandemic. We're dealing with unprecedented circumstances, right? Most people understand this and they're willing to be patient and considerate, more considerate than they usually are. And we have to understand that the pandemic is not going to last forever. Although some days it will feel like it will go on and drag on. So you have to treat each other well. You know, it's better off for you if you have that mindset that I'm going to treat this person well and keep yourself under control with the understanding that this is temporary. It's not going to last forever. So if you need help, you're going to have to ask for help if you need it. Reach out for mental health support if you need it. Don't try to take it on by yourself. Any stress or depression or isolation or loneliness that could be bringing you down. You're going to have to get help and ask for help. You can stay healthy. You can get treatment through this. But you have to ask for help. It's so important. That's what's going to make relationships resilient. If they take the advocacy role and advocate for themselves and their family, and they plan and they seek help when they need it, and they understand they're realistic, they have a positive mindset and understand that they're not the only ones going through this. That is important. So we've had some good conversation about the COVID-19, the impact on these relationships, and certain things that you can do to keep your relationship on track. So I want to say thank you and spread the word like the wise old bird. And take care of yourselves, people.